For thousands of years, the Chinese have believed that the moment you are born shapes the entire arc of your life. Not your star sign, not your personality, the precise elemental forces in motion at the exact second you took your first breath. I am Mr. Shu. I read those forces for a living. On this channel, I take the classical system of BaZi and apply it to the questions people are actually asking: career decisions, relationships, whether the difficulty you are experiencing right now is temporary or structural, whether the opportunity in front of you is real or a distraction. No vague monthly forecasts, no items to purchase, just the system applied honestly. Today, we are looking at the Chinese Zodiac and BaZi side by side. Most people think they are the same system with different packaging. They are not, and the gap between them is larger than most people realize. Let us get into it. Let us start with the Zodiac, because most people already have some relationship with it. The Chinese Zodiac, known in Mandarin as Shengxiao, is a 12-year cycle. Each year in the cycle is assigned one of 12 animals: rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, pig. The cycle repeats. You are born in a year. That year has an animal, and that animal becomes your sign. Now here is where it already gets more complex than the restaurant placemat suggests. The animal year is not just decorative. In classical Chinese cosmology, each year carries a specific elemental energy alongside it. So you are not just a dragon. You might be a water dragon, or a wood dragon, or a fire dragon. These are meaningfully different in classical terms. Beyond the year animal, the zodiac also carries compatibility frameworks. Certain animals are said to harmonize, others are said to clash, and in Chinese cultural practice, this compatibility logic has historically been applied to marriages, business partnerships, and even the timing of major decisions. So to be clear, the zodiac is not a trivial system. It has real classical foundations. It is not arbitrary, but it is working with one data point, the year you were born. And that is where the gap begins. BaZi uses 4 data points, not 1. Your year of birth, your month of birth, your day of birth, and the hour of birth. Each of these 4 data points generates 2 characters in the classical Chinese calendar system: a heavenly stem and an earthly branch. So across 4 pillars, you have 8 characters total. That is what BaZi means literally, 8 characters. Now those 8 characters are not just descriptive labels. Each one carries an elemental nature: metal, water, wood, fire, or earth. And the system then looks at how those elements interact with each other. Which ones strengthen each other? Which ones control each other? Which ones are in tension? Your birth chart becomes a map of elemental relationships. And from that map, a practitioner derives things like which element you need more of, which element causes you problems, what kind of career structure suits your chart, how your relationships are likely to unfold, and how the energy of a given year or decade interacts with what you were born with. The zodiac year, your animal sign, is still in that chart. It is the earthly branch of your year pillar, so it is not ignored. It just becomes one data point inside a much larger picture. Think of it this way. If someone asked you to describe a person and you were only allowed to give their surname, you could. It tells you something. It gives you a cultural reference point. But now imagine being given their full name, their background, their strengths, the pressures they have been under, and the decade they are currently in. That is the difference in resolution we are talking about. There is another layer to this that most people do not know. The zodiac is a fixed assignment. You are born in a rat year, you are a rat for life. The reading you get from your animal does not change based on when it is applied. BaZi operates differently. There is a time dimension built into the system. Beyond the birth chart itself, which is static, BaZi uses a system called luck pillars. These are 10-year cycles of energy that layer over your birth chart as you move through life. Each decade you enter carries its own elemental character, and that elemental character either supports or challenges what your birth chart contains. This means two people with similar birth charts can have completely different decades. One person enters a decade where their favorable elements are strengthened, doors open more easily, timing aligns, opportunities convert. The other enters a decade where their weaker elements are under pressure. The same effort produces different results, not because of luck in the loose sense of the word, because the energetic conditions they are operating in are genuinely different. Beyond luck pillars, BaZi also applies annual and monthly layer analysis. The energy of a specific year, including the animal year that the zodiac is tracking, gets mapped against the individual birth chart. So your experience of a tiger year, for example, is not the same as everyone else's experience of a tiger year. It depends entirely on what you were born with. This is where the zodiac's generalized compatibility and forecast systems reach their natural ceiling. They can tell you something about the collective character of a year. They cannot tell you how that year lands in your specific chart. Now, I want to be careful here because I am not saying the zodiac is wrong or worthless. The classical Chinese zodiac carries a genuine cosmological structure. The 12 animals correspond to the 12 earthly branches, which are the same earthly branches used in BaZi. The elemental interactions between zodiac animals that you see in compatibility charts, harmonies, and clashes are derived from real classical rules. Those rules exist in BaZi as well. The difference is what you do with them. In a zodiac reading, a clash between two animals tells you something general, two signs in tension. In a BaZi reading, the same clash between two earthly branches can be analyzed far more precisely. Which pillar is being affected? Is this a clash that harms the person or one that actually activates something useful? Is this a clash that appears in a year when the person is otherwise well supported, in which case the turbulence may be manageable? Or does it land in an already pressured decade, in which case the impact is compounded? The zodiac gives you a category. BaZi gives you a condition. And that distinction matters enormously when you are using the system to inform real decisions. I have spoken to people who felt deeply resonant with their zodiac animal, and that resonance is real. The classical Chinese understanding of each animal carries genuine psychological and energetic substance. The ox is patient and persistent. The horse is restless and action-oriented. These are not arbitrary associations. They are drawn from centuries of observation mapped against the earthly branch system. But feeling resonant with your zodiac animal is not the same as understanding your elemental structure. Someone can identify strongly as a dog and still be walking into a decade that suits them perfectly, or one that challenges them at the root. Knowing the animal tells you the character. Knowing the chart tells you the conditions. There is one more thing worth addressing directly. A lot of people encounter the Chinese zodiac through compatibility readings. Should I date a rabbit? Is my business partner being a rooster a problem? Is this year good for dragons? These are reasonable questions to ask, and the zodiac gives you starting point answers. Two animals that share a classical harmony combination, three animals that form a directional triad, or two animals that sit in direct clash. These patterns are meaningful in the classical system. But BaZi takes compatibility analysis to an entirely different depth. When two people's full charts are placed side by side, a practitioner is not just checking whether the year animals clash. They are looking at how each person's day master, their core elemental identity, relates to the other, whether the interactions between charts activate helpful structures or suppress them, whether the two charts are operating in complementary or conflicting decades. Two people whose zodiac animals clash might, in BaZi terms, have charts that support each other beautifully. The year animal clash becomes context, not verdict. And two people whose zodiac animals are considered a perfect match might have charts that structurally undermine each other in ways that matter more than the surface compatibility. The harmony at one layer does not override tension at another. This is why I tend to be cautious about giving hard compatibility verdicts based on zodiac alone. It is not that the system is wrong, it is that you are working with a fraction of the available information and treating it as the whole picture. So, where does this leave us? The Chinese zodiac is real. It is classically grounded. It gives you a meaningful starting point, particularly as a cultural entry point into the broader system. If you know nothing about Chinese metaphysics and someone asks what year you were born in, your animal tells you something genuine about the baseline and energetic character of that year. But it is a starting point, not an end point. BaZi starts where the zodiac ends. It takes your year animal and places it inside a full structural picture with three other pillars, a complete elemental profile, a luck cycle, and an annual overlay. The zodiac tells you one thing. BaZi tells you how that one thing relates to everything else in your chart and in your current period of life. If you are making small decisions, checking whether a year feels broadly auspicious, or exploring Chinese metaphysics for the first time, the zodiac is a perfectly reasonable entry point. There is nothing wrong with starting there. But if you are trying to understand why a specific period of your life felt the way it did, whether a decision you are facing is well-timed, or what the structural conditions of the next decade look like for you, you need the full picture. And the full picture is BaZi. The zodiac tells you your seat number. BaZi tells you where the plane is going and whether you are on it at the right time. That is the distinction, and now that you understand it, every zodiac reading you encounter from here will look different to you, because you will know what it is, and equally what it is not. Before I close this episode, I want to tell you what is coming next, because it is something that, once you hear it, reframes a lot of what you thought you already understood about your own life. In BaZi, your life does not run on one flat continuous energy. It runs in decades. Each decade carries its own elemental character, its own conditions, its own doors that are open and its own doors that are not. And there is a specific age, different for every single person, where that energy shifts. Sometimes it shifts in your favor. Opportunities start converting. Things that felt effortful suddenly feel easier. Sometimes it shifts into a period of pressure where the same effort produces less, and you cannot quite work out why. But here is what matters. That shift is not random. It is calculable. It is sitting in your birth chart right now. And once you know when your next shift is supposed to happen, the pattern of your own life, the good stretches and the hard ones, starts to make a completely different kind of sense. That is what the next video covers: the decade system, and how it works, what it actually predicts, and how to read where you are in your own cycle right now. If that is something you want to understand about your own life, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube so you do not miss it when it drops. And if you prefer shorter content, I put out regular breakdowns on TikTok as well. The link is in the description. If this video gave you something useful, a like goes a long way. It tells the algorithm this kind of content is worth showing to more people. And honestly, more people could do with understanding this system properly. I am Mr. Shu. I will see you in the next one.